Hello! I'm recording this video in response to a Genderqueer Chat video that Jack made where they talk about an email that they got from one of the viewers about being a lesbian in a man's body and identifying with lesbians but not as a woman, or not wanting to be a woman but want to not be seen as traditionally masculine in their relationships with women. And I thought I got something to add on this, so I'm recording this video. I've written stuff down so I don't forget. So if I'm looking off to the side, that's what I'm looking at. So firstly, the BSRI questionnaire that Johannes sent in to Genderqueer Chat. Its full name is the BEM Sex Role Inventory. And yeah, it basically is a questionnaire which describes certain behaviours and stuff which are traditionally seen as being gendered or androgynous, and you have to rate whether that's true for you or not. And it is limited by the fact that whether a behaviour is seen as being masculine, say, or not, is, can be quite arbitrary and is quite particular to the time and the place in which the questionnaire was set up. But I think a strength of it is that instead of putting masculine, say masculine's over here and then feminine's over here and everyone has to be somewhere in between, it has masculine as a thing that you can be completely masculine or completely not masculine, as being totally separate from whether you're feminine or not, which makes a lot of sense to me, because, for example, I could dress up in loads of, I could have my hair long and wear lots of, wear makeup and a dress and, a corset and stockings and high heels and all of that stuff, and then go around acting in a a traditionally masculine manner. I could talk with a deep voice in as much as I can manage a deep voice. I could be sexually aggressive. I could talk loudly. I could sit in ways which are considered like traditionally masculine ways. I could carry myself in a very masculine way, and so I would be being very feminine and being very masculine both at once. And on the kind of the scale here, where this is masculine, this is feminine, I'd be in the middle, right? Because I'd be being equally both, if it's even possible to be equally both. But if I didn't take part in any kind of activities which are considered gendered, or didn't do anything to my appearance to express myself in a gendered way, I would also be in the middle, but I wouldn't be at all like the other scenario described. So that's where the masculine-feminine thing really falls down, is that it works fine if you're at one end and you can go, oh yeah, the people over there, they're different from me, but it doesn't work fine if you're not at one end, because all the stuff that's in the middle is really different from each other. And that's my screen coming back on. And so that's one way in which the BEM sex role inventory has a strength, in that, Jack described their results as being a high percentage masculine, 60-something% masculine, and then on feminine they were 40-something%. Which actually does add up to 100, but you could be 90% masculine and 50% feminine on that scale. And then they also have another for androgynous, which I guess is for behaviours which aren't seen as being particularly gendered on the male-female binary. So that's what I think about the BSRI. I have done it in the past, but I can't remember what my numbers were, but it was kind of as you'd expect for genderqueer person living as a woman. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the gender of your sexuality, in terms of the the person who originally started this discussion was saying that they identify as a lesbian but live as a man, and I think that it's a bit more like there's a bit more to it than that. I think that instead of thinking about it as what gender your sexuality is, I find it more helpful to think about what gender roles you want to have in your sexual relationships. So if you're heterosexual, then there's all of these like stereotypes as to how to behave. Like I saw someone on the internet today asking for dating advice, saying they'd been on a date with someone, saying she'd been on a date with a guy and they'd had a great time and gone back to his house and like talked until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then he'd driven her home or something, and it was 2 days later and he hadn't texted. So was he interested in sex or not? Should she just write this whole thing off? And she wasn't considering that she could ask the guy, that she could get in touch with him first, that if she wanted to have a sexual relationship with him, then she could make a move on him and not just wait for him to, kiss her or whatever. And I think that's how a lot of people live. I can't imagine living like that, but that's because I'm the person that I am. And I think that it's easier for people who fall outside of the kind of cisgender, monosexual, heterosexual, monogamous kind of norm that our society has. It's easier for us lot to question all of the other stuff that goes with being that, i.e. the gender roles and like gendered ways in which heterosexual relationships are seen to work, and that I think that what Johannes is expressing, or the way I see what they were expressing, is that they want to have heterosexual relationships, but without having all of the like crap that goes along with having heterosexual relationships in terms of basically heteronormativity, and yeah. So I think that instead of I think that they label lesbian and the lesbian community, like, probably not everyone will be hugely accepting of men who want to have relationships with women, saying I'm a lesbian, and I'm still divided on who side I would pick in that kind of disagreement. In that, firstly, I think that labels are very personal, and if it helps you to use a label, then that's nobody else's business. But on a broader level, labels are how minority groups identify themselves to wider society, and I'm not sure that because in broader society, lesbian has a specific meaning that doesn't include being a man. I'm not sure whether a man kind of saying, well, I want to have that label too, is helpful to lesbians in general, and the lesbians trying to have their like lesbian issues and lesbian stuff, like that's their stuff, and for a straight man to be going, well, I want to have that stuff too, doesn't quite feel right to me. So I'm not decided on like how to resolve those two things, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway. The next thing that Jack mentioned, which I felt like I could say something about, is being in a relationship with a man and not feeling comfortable because they see you as a woman, or they see you as being not genderqueer, or they're not aware of gender in the same way as you are. And I have some potential, I think solution is probably too strong a word, But some ways to get around that and have relationships with men where that's less of an issue. And firstly, I guess having relationships with men who are bisexual or pansexual means that, well, I think in general bisexual people, because we are not dead set on a particular gender dynamic in our relationships, because we're open to relationships with people of like different genders, means that bisexual people are more likely to be used to the idea of each relationship having its individual gender dynamic, instead of going, well, this is the gender dynamic that I have in relationships. And that I've had relationships with bisexual men who have been totally happy to refer to me by masculine terms or that kind of thing, that they've not had a problem with my gender because they don't have a problem with being attracted to men. And, you know, conversely, for Johannes, it might be an idea to find a bisexual woman who would be willing to treat them more like she would treat a female partner. And the other thing is trans guys, even heterosexual trans guys are more likely to be respectful of your gender and have thought about gender a lot, and be open to discussing gender dynamics, although not all trans guys. I guess I've seen some guys on YouTube who seem pretty set on adopting the kind of becoming part of the patriarchy way of being a man, which is something I find unattractive, so that's someone I wouldn't end up in a relationship with, and so I guess it wouldn't come up. So dating advice for Jack: find bisexual people and other genderqueer people and possibly trans people to have relationships with, and for all of that I can recommend OkCupid. Get on there. And the last thing is being attracted to people similar to yourself, which I have to say I do. Like, I do that. Like, or at least I think I do. I am quite narcissistic. Like, I'm making a video of myself, right? And I like to make videos of myself. But my views on finding people attractive who are like me, or that kind of thing, I think that I can't really imagine what this is like for people who aren't pansexual and genderqueer, but it seems very natural to me to express myself in ways which I consider attractive. Like it wouldn't really make sense for me to express myself in ways which I find unattractive. I don't think it's a particularly a bad thing or should be a shameful thing to be attracted to people who are like yourself, because it makes sense for you to present yourself in a way which you think is attractive. Yeah, I don't really know how that works for cisgender or monosexual people though, because if you're a guy who doesn't find guys attractive, then how do you decide how to present yourself? Maybe someone can explain that to me. Right, I think I've talked enough, and hopefully I've made some sense, and yeah, I hope someone enjoyed watching this. Bye!